Hi, this is Andy with Mountain Computers. Today is May 1st, 2019, and we are broadcasting from my front office. I went ahead and moved everything from the back lab area to one of my main computers. I've got I've got a Linux machine over here, and I've got a Windows 10 machine over here. Linux Mint, by the way. Love Linux Mint, and I love Windows 10, so got them both. But today, I hope everybody's been doing great. We've been gone for, I don't know, a week, just working. And we're going to be posting some new videos. Some of them are rough, some of them are pretty cool on what we're working on. But for the most part, today I want to talk about usability and functionality. Now I looked on the internet about people who have talked about these two topics in the same vein. And I wrote down, I don't know, 7 things on usability and about 10 things on functionality. And then what's the common denominator between both of them. And I want to tell you right now, my software, the Go Green PC Tune-Up, is about functionality and usability. And the common denominator is performance and speed and a couple more things, but we'll get into that later on. So before we get started, like, subscribe, and share in the bottom. Add your questions and your comments. I'm going to look down at this piece of paper to make sure I stay on track, but I'm going to keep this pretty quick because I think it's important just to keep these down to 10 minutes so people can get a quick takeaway and move on with their day and then come back and look at other subjects. So let's get started. Usability. Now usability is about, in my definition, is the ability to use something. It's easy, it's not hard, it's manageable. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this, but let me talk about what I think they apply to in my world. Menus. When you look on a computer and you see menus, menus need to make sense. And Microsoft did a pretty good job in the beginning determining what are the minimum menu items, like file, edit, window, help. I think the 3 minimums were file and help about, to show me a version number. And then under the file menu, there's basically 3 things: open, save, and exit. And then they threw in print. So let's talk about menus. Usability. Those common things should always be in the same place. Now in Linux, it's a little different. In Windows, it's always been the same. So don't change it. And in Linux, I don't know, you can do better. As far as a Mac goes, you have the dock. Other companies like HP and Dell, they have their own Dell dock, HP dock, the Apple dock. There really isn't a Microsoft dock. There's just a taskbar that you can move around left, right, top, bottom. I always like it on the bottom. Some people put it on the right. So anyhow, menus. Let's talk about menus. The boot up. Let's talk about usability in the boot up. When you boot up a computer, you should be able to do a couple things. One, look at the hardware configuration in the BIOS or the UEFI. You should be able to repair and recover easily. You should be able to halt the process, pause the process, make any changes, do any diagnosis, but that's it. And security. There's a security option always in those things. 3, repair. Usability and repair. I just did a video on repairing a laptop. It was a Dell E5430 CPU fan. The usability of repair. I know there's some lawsuits going on who can repair a laptop, who can repair a computer. Apple has their ideas that none of us can repair, the right to repair. John Deere is in a big fight with farmers. Do you own the tractor or not? Does John Deere say, oh, you cannot change the software, you can't modify it because it's ours? What about Windows? Can I modify Windows? Can I modify Linux? I guess it comes down to the agreement and the terms. But the usability and repair on a Mac and a PC, laptop, or Windows desktop, the common parts that you have to change, they should be easily accessible, easily sourceable. I mean, AC adapters for laptops, they should all be the same. Same connector, same voltage, same current, no questions asked. The RAM, the hard drive, the CPU fan, those all should take 1-2 screws, a few minutes to swap them out, to clean it. The screen, 2 screws on one side, 2 screws on another side, just a couple connectors, easily accessible. Pop the screen off, put it on a different screen. Touch screen, matte, glossy, with camera, without camera. Keyboards, easily changeable. Keyboard, 2 screws, pop off the keyboard, ribbon cable, put it back on. So usability. Upgrading, number 4, upgrading. The upgradability and usability. When you upgrade an operating system, you can do it 2 ways. Just start over, back up all your stuff, wipe out the operating system, install the new operating system, restore your data. In some upgrades, they tell you, and they don't tell you, to uninstall the antivirus, because the antivirus might interfere with the upgrade. That should be obvious to people, sometimes not. Toolbars. Did I talk about toolbars? Well, I talked about the dock, but toolbars, same thing. Any product. Adobe, the toolbars. Visual Studio, the toolbars. When you're doing anything that GIMP, when you have toolbars. Try and keep those all the same. Usability 101, keep it the same. Now, I understand people would have copyright and trademark issues, so I don't know. Something to think about. Websites, usability. Website should come up fast. When you look at the code, there should be no errors in it. If there are errors in it, then it should be obvious and not a security or privacy issue. What's the other thing about websites when it comes to usability? Everything should be one click away from something. You shouldn't have to dig, 3 or 4 clicks to get to where you're going. I usually have navigation and 1 click to get where you're going. And that applies to the next thing, which is phone trees. So when you call some company and you get a call tree, a phone tree, and it's just a voice script, it says press 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for that. One of the options that always should be is or if you want to, disable the robocall or disable the message, it should all be the same. You should be able to press 1 button and get a human being. You should be able to press, and there's only so many buttons on a phone, so standardize that. So usability, standardization, those are important. So let's talk about functionality. Functionality for a second. Go to the other side of the equation. Usability. When you look at something, it should make sense. The buttons are in the right place. Okay, cancel, exit, quit, stop. Colors. There's so many things that you can think about that go into the psychology of a human using a computer. So back on usability for a second, think about the person you're affecting. So over on the functionality side, I always said with functionality, you should write down things on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and do the design concept. Just draft it out. And it should be a 3-level design document. So basically, there's a high level, a middle level, and low level. And I call that the executive summary, a summary page, which is more, it goes into more summary, expanding things, and then a real data page, which is the raw data. So the 3-level design approach. The elevator speech, 30 seconds. Get across the point what you're trying to make. The data flow diagram. When it comes to functionality, you should have those in blocks, little icons. Use Visio, use some sort of data flow diagram to describe it. The process flow, white box, black box design. What's inside? What is the expected inputs? What are the expected outputs? What kind of filtering, security, all those things. QC and audit control. I've been in manufacturing a long time, supply chain management, military, all that stuff. One of the things that you always have to do is build quality and checks into the process. Don't wait till final inspection to see that there was a problem 20 steps before. One of the things that you always do is build inline QC checks to where if one thing in your functionality is not working, how many other things is it going to affect? So build in QC and audit control. We call that debugging, logs lots of things. You know, beta testers, they all look at things differently. Sample populations, complete populations, all that stuff goes into effect. Project manageable, I call it project managementable. So when you do a functional design of anything, you should be able to put that into a project right away. Project management is very important. There's people that go overkill, but really it's about, you know, the three different things that have to deal with the scope, the time, resources. Don't want scope creep. Your milestones are important. What else? Reporting's important. When you look at functionality, look at the 360-degree approach. I always say take something, and we're not trying to create problems, we're trying to solve problems. Problems appear out of nowhere. I need to do something. I need to fix something. I need to replace something. When you take the project or the problem and put it in the middle, do a 360-degree approach on it. Look at it from every angle, at every layer. That's important when it comes to functionality. Functionality is people-oriented and data-oriented. You can measure just about anything, really, unless it's like telekinesis or something like that. And even then you can. Before, after, you know, time motion studies. Is the functionality dashboardable? Can you put it on a dashboard? Can you put it on the radar? I have always said when it comes to a dashboard, you have 3 things that are quantifiable and 2 or 3 things that are qualitative. The quantifiable is metrics, you know. Where are we at financially? Where are we at on time? Where are we at on 0 injuries? Where are we at on counts, you know, units, dollars, everything that's a metric. The feeling stuff, that goes into, I mean, are we happy? Is the team happy? How's the morale? Those qualitative things. Does the product look good? Does the product look bad? Is it things taking too long? Now that's metrics, but that's also feelings, you know. Are people getting frustrated? That feedback loop is very important when it comes to functionality. Functionality has to have a feedback loop. We call it an appeal process. In you know, top-down, bottom-up management, you always want to take input from all sides. At the right time, you note things, you take action on things, you have formal and informal data collection methods, you have lots of ways to do things. Let's see. Is the functionality financially feasible? Is it going to make you money or is it going to cost you money? How long? What's your ROI? Is it 3 months or 3 years? Those things need to be taken into account. I realize the things that I'm saying are sort of colloquial and informal, but some people will go through the school of hard knocks. I've done that. I'm a farm boy. You learn and you apply your learning. You take some theory, you apply it. I've been in the military. I've been at, you know, major Fortune 500, 100 corporations, Microsoft. I don't put on my chest all of those things. I don't say those things, and there's a reason. That's just being humble. But when you're formally educated, like my master's degree in business with an emphasis in technology management and my undergrad in computer systems engineering, how can you summarize all that with just a certificate on the wall? Anybody can get a degree. I mean, really can these days. And lots of people are rich, and what's their measure of success? Is it the degree, or is it, you know, how much money they have in the bank? How many people are in their team? How many employees they have? How many cars do they have? How many houses do they have? You know, how much authority and power do they have? Does that really matter to me? Not really. No. I want to be happy. I want this topic on usability and functionality to make sense. I don't want to go off and wander around the bush and come back like I just did. So what's the common denominator between these two, usability and functionality? Those were the last things. 1, it's speed and performance. 2, it's documentation. You got to have documentation. Just ran into an experience yesterday where the documentation on a root password for a major system on paper was wrong, and they hadn't updated it for a year. Now, I'm just taking over this one major client, And I said, really? That's the first thing I tested, was all the admin access. So documentation, very important. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll try it now. What do you mean try it now? You handed me a package with all the controls, all the passwords and everything, and the main password, root password, was wrong. Intentional, unintentional. I don't know. Number 3, maintainability and transferability. One of the things about all of this that I'm talking about is maintainability and transferability. Can you easily transfer it from you to somebody else? Can you easily maintain it? All those things go into functionality and usability. If you can't maintain it, it's probably not worth it. If you can't transfer it from you to somebody else, probably not worth having. It's like a house, a car, anything, any asset, anything. I should be able to easily transfer one thing from me to you. I don't care what the government regulations are. If the government regulations make it difficult, it's probably a bad government regulation, or the people in charge just don't care. They just say, this is what you got to do. You got to go through 20 hoops to get this done, not 1 or 2. So that's not very usable. That's not very functional. So anyhow, this is Andy from Mountain Computers. Just wanted to talk about those 2 subjects today. What did I do with my remote? I can't remember. Oh, it's right here in my pocket. But if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. It's an interesting subject. I mean, the goal of our videos is to document knowledge and share it with you. And in 20, 30 years, I might look back and say, yeah, that really was me. And was I really smart, not smart? It doesn't really matter. I think just being able to share information and to be able to look back and say, that was interesting. I've looked at code that was 20, 30 years old. I don't recognize it until I see something in it that looks like me. That's my thumbprint, my work. And then I'll see people take on my work and make changes to it. That's pretty cool. Do they continue the goal of usable and functional? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. More yes than no. But yeah, I think that's the end of our video today. Like, subscribe, and share. This is Andy with Mountain Computers. Have a great day. There'll be more to come. Bye-bye.